Competency-based medical education is a trending paradigm in medical training. However, in anatomy, I believe that competencies behave a bit differently. And that is not just because of the memorization at the knowledge domain, but the heavy emphasis on being able to demonstrate and show structures. To support learners to become competent, educators often rely on these competencies to design their classes and plan learning objectives to match these competencies. Which means finding high quality visual content that can match all these various objectives tends to be a challenge, and educators often tend to rely on conventional 2D images, which can be very limiting in terms of being able to customize it. Now, this could confuse learners because every new image introduced has its own visual language, has a different set of colors, have different kinds of animations, and sometimes a whole lot of errors. A best anecdote for this is when students often approach their educators with their textbooks in hand and complain and express their frustration over a badly illustrated image because they found some inconsistency or error. Sometimes they also find these in your classes. So in such instances, I've found wherever possible that using a 3D anatomy atlas allows me to create a consistent visual language among all of the images I prepare for my classes, ultimately to support the various objectives of these competencies. Hi, I'm Dr. Darren, a clinical anatomist, and in this video, I will show you how a 3D anatomy atlas like Complete Anatomy can be used to plan high-quality anatomical visuals for your classes. So to show you how I use Complete Anatomy to plan my classes, I'm going to take a sample competency. Let's break it down and make some specific learning objectives. And then let's head over to Complete Anatomy and see how we can make visuals that can match these objectives, how we can set the app for our lectures, and how we can also export images from Complete Anatomy to add into our lectures. So this is the competency that I've selected, AN 10.3. Describe, identify, and demonstrate the formation, branches, relations, area of supply of branches, course, and relations of terminal branches of brachial plexus. So it's quite a big one. Now, here are some specific learning objectives that I have made to break it down. So let's go through each of them. The first one is describe and demonstrate the formation of the brachial plexus. So we will switch to the Complete Anatomy app over here and try and target that specific learning object. Right, so to address that objective over here, we need a model of the brachial plexus. Now, we can make a model, but I'm going to be lazy over here and use the app's powerful features to quickly whip something up. So I'm going to go to the library section over here. So let's click on library and make sure that you're in the content tab. Click on filter, make sure you select screens, and then make sure under groups, all groups is selected, and click on view content. Now you will see these are all the pre-made models available within the app. Let's see if we can find something that shows the formation of the brachial plexus. So on the top left-hand corner, there is a search option. So I'm going to type in brachial plexus and let's see what pops up. All right, so now these are some of the screens that are popping up. So let's see what is a good fit for formation. Right, so I'm finding a model here, this one over here. Let's just open it and see if it suits us. Right, I think this is a great model because if I look at this, they have labeled the vertebral levels, and let's just see how these labels interact. Okay, fantastic. Roots, trunks, lovely. So I think this gives us a very good way to show the students rather quickly how the brachial plexus is divided. So I'm going to exit this by pressing the X button at the top, and this is where we are. So I'm just going to leave this as is for the first objective. And now this is where the app gets very interesting. So if you notice on the top left-hand corner, I have an option called as tab. Now, tabs are a powerful way to load different models within the app so that you can show different contexts within a specific competency or topic. So click on that and you can notice full body. And if you see at the top, it gives you a very powerful option. Let's just repeat that again. I'm just going to press on tab. And if you look at this option, would you like to restore the model setup from your previous tab? Click on restore and look at the magic. The same model has duplicated itself into the next tab. So if we see here, this is tab 1. You can see we have the same thing here, and if we come back to the second one, we have tab 2. Now for those who are not seeing the tab option, you need to enable this feature. To do that, go to settings, and under settings, click on preferences, and under the preference tab, scroll down and you can see the section called active features. Under active features, you have some options here. Make sure the tabs is enabled over here. So you need to see a tick mark on that. Once you're done with that, click on the close button here and you should be able to see the tab option at the top left hand corner of your screen. So now let's try and build the second second model for our second objective. So let's look at that objective here, and it reads as describe the common variation in the formation of the brachial plexus. All right, so this refers to the prefixed and the postfixed state of the formation of the brachial plexus. Of course, you can bring in other variations as well, but that's the most common one. So I'm going to come back to the app. Now let's get a little creative here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw the prefixed and postfixed state because it's going to be a little difficult to manipulate the features on this app. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in a little over here, position the model in the center. I'll go to tools, click on the pen feature. So I'm just going to draw this. There's nothing like a simple drawing. So I'm going to use the annotation tool and I'm going to draw the C4 root. Okay, so we will just go ahead and just write C4, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the color for the postfixed state of the brachial plexus, and let's draw another root that's emerging and we'll call this T2. Okay, once we're done, click on done and that exits. So I'm not going to move the model in this instance. I'm just going to leave it as such, and I think it becomes easier now during the course of my lecture to switch between the tabs. I have a model where I can quickly interact. Let's say I can show the students what the roots look like over here, and then I can during the lecture switch over to the next tab and I can show them this model that I prepared over here and just talk about how if the root emerged above the C5 level, and then we would have C4, which would then convey that that is a prefixed brachial plexus. Right. So this takes care of the second objective. Now let's see how we can quickly prepare the third objective. So I'm going to go back and let's read that out. Name the infraclavicular branches of the brachial plexus. Right. So let's come back to complete anatomy. Right, so over here, I think there's an option called terminal branches. So what I'm going to do is I'll just go to the plus icon, we'll open a new tab. And again, we should get that option to restore. And if we press, notice the previous model's elements pop in. However, we don't want the annotations that we've put. So I'm just going to go back to tools. I'm going to click on pen and clear 2D pen. So once that is done, press done and that should clear things up. So let's just click on terminal branches and see what it's showing us. All right, so it's showing us the terminal branches, but they've not labeled anything. So I don't think this is going to be useful to demonstrate the third objective. So what I can do is let's again go back to the library, see if we can sneak some images in. Okay, so it appears like the one over here, review of brachial plexus terminal branches, seems nice, right? So I'm going to click on that. Let's wait for the model to load. Right, I think this is a good one. So let's exit the library and we should have this model here. So let's inspect. I'm going to click on the musculocutaneous nerve. Fantastic. So look at that. The terminal branches have all been labeled and the model is ready for us. However, I noticed that I want to now slightly make a modification here, because if you see this, they have shown the short head of the biceps brachii, but when we usually describe the course of the musculocutaneous nerve, we talk about how the nerve pierces the coracobrachialis. And if I zoom in over here, I'm not seeing that being shown here. So what I'll do is I will just use the search tool, and yeah, I've already typed in coracobrachialis. So let's bring in the right coracobrachialis and then click on search to exit again. And let's just move the model till we see it. Fantastic. So I'm going to remove the short head of the biceps brachii by selecting on it and then clicking on hide, and that's fantastic. Now look at that. So if I just click anywhere on the outside, that should get rid of the info panel that we just saw, and if I click on the musculocutaneous nerve, see that. What a beautiful way to show the course of the musculocutaneous nerve piercing the coracobrachialis muscle. So in this way, you can get very creative. You can use the tab feature to load several models in different states. You can use the same screen that you have created, add in different structures. And yeah, that's how I usually plan my models for my classes. Now, assuming your device can't handle so many screens, or let's say you don't have the time to run the app, you can export images from Complete Anatomy for your classes. So to do that, you have an option over here on the right side called as export image. Simply click on that and you will get an option where you can choose different quality that you need for the image. So I'm just going to click on this one here and I'm going to click on export. So let's just wait for this. Right. So it's going to give you an option. So you can just go ahead and let's say we'll save it as demo screen. I'm just going to save it in the desktop and let's just click save. So this is the image that we just made. I'm going to copy. Let's go back to my PowerPoint and I'm just going to create a new slide and click on paste. Right, so there you go. You have the image that you just clicked on Complete Anatomy. So you can place that into your PowerPoint, and this is a very powerful way to make your classes engaging and design them according to the objectives of the competency. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to use Complete Anatomy to create custom visuals to support the various learning objectives of competencies. Let me know if there are creative ways in which you use Complete Anatomy in your workflows. Leave a comment below and happy teaching.